Butch is my brother-in-law, and he drove down from Alabama, and yesterday, and he's our next seminar speaker. And he's like I say, he's built this book, wrote this book, and this is a really passion of his on survival. Give him a great hand. Butch, come on up front, buddy, and speak to us.
I'm going to start you off with about an 8 to 10 minute presentation. Once I get this thing turned on. Button right there. Can you hear me now? Yeah. All right, sorry about that. I'm going to start you off real quick with about an 8 to 10 minute presentation on preparedness in America, and then we'll roll into what I want to talk to you about, okay? So hang with it. This is just a collage of all of the disasters we've had in the United States and our territories in the last few years, okay? And I put a little music to it, so. All right. Does everyone have a clue what we're going to talk about? Quick question. Be honest, we're all brothers and sisters. How many of you have said he's a prepper? Be honest, raise your hand. I asked the question, how many of you in your mind have said he's a prepper?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk to you about a different way to approach it. All right. The difference between prepping and preparedness. Okay. Can you hear me all right? I don't want to use a microphone because I'll end up throwing it when I'm talking. All right. So it's great to be back in my home state of West Virginia. I was born and raised here many moons ago. I actually used to be a little squirt along with Doug Handshoe, who was a little squirt, and we used to play trumpets together. Sorry, Doug, I had to tell him. In elementary and junior high, I got this great notion that if I grew my hair down to my belt and played music, that I could make a career on MTV. And boy, what a bad thought that was. So I was extremely unknowledgeable of the world around me. I was walking through a mall one day in Mercer County, and I was walking by a TV store, and I heard this voice that sounded like John Wayne, and I liked John Wayne. So I went in this store, and lo and behold, there was a gentleman named President Ronald Reagan on TV talking about I love America. And I was sold. I said, I gotta have some of this. I went and cut my hair. I joined the military, and 20 years later, retired, had a totally different view of the world. I went to DC for 2 years, moved to Alabama, and so much for the Roll Tide thing. It's much better to hear Let's Go Mountaineers if you're a WVU fan. It's kind of funny because down there it's, are you a Roll Tide or are you a War Eagle? It's like neither one. I'm a Mountaineer, huh? So we moved to Alabama 13 years ago, and we stayed true to our blue and gold. West Virginia will always be home. We actually did not come back to West Virginia when I retired from the military because at the time, West Virginia's laws were not favorable to veterans to come here and retire. So, and I wasn't going to retire. I was going to continue working. So I went to Alabama. Oddly enough, how many of you are old enough to remember President Reagan's Star Wars dream? Strategic Defense Initiative, craziest thing you ever heard of, wasn't it? Here's this man that they said is Hafsino, and he's talking about programs in space. Well, it's now the year 2020, and I work for the Missile Defense Agency, which is Ronald Reagan's SDI program. And that is fighting warfare in outer space. But I'm not a brainiac engineer. I work in emergency management. So telling you all this, there's a reason I'm getting to it. I've worked in Department of Defense for 37 years. I've completed over 50 FEMA classes. I'm nationally certified in the FEMA database. I went back to school and got my master's degree in emergency management and disaster recovery. So I've been inside the program, right? And I have a good understanding of how the program works. And about a year and a half ago, I woke up one morning and I told my wife, I said, God's laid it on my heart, I gotta do something. And that's how this came about. So it has been I still work full time, 50 hours a week. And I've made it my mission now coming up into West Virginia. I've been doing this down in Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina. So I sat down and I wrote a book, knocked it out real fast. I've had emails to me in the last 2 weeks, folks saying that read the book, thank you so much for sharing this with us, because everything you talked about in your book is what we're seeing happen in America today. It's not rocket science, okay? So I went on this mission, I wrote the book, built a website, had some recommendations from some other authors who said you need to do A, B, C, D, and E. I completed those check marks, and I've made it a mission every chance I get, whether whatever state it's in, if I can get time off from work, to come out and talk to people, us average Americans, because we are not part of that big picture, on what you need to think about to keep yourself safe. All right? And I can tell you this. If I had $1 for every time I've heard, why do I need to do that for? Nothing ever happens. Why do I want to do that? I'll just come to your house and take yours. All right? Why do I want to do that? God will take care of me. Okay. Good enough. We'll talk about that, all right? All right. I got a clicker here somewhere. All right. So last quick story about West Virginia. True story. 1999, I was on the coast of Africa in Dakar, Senegal. And I was working the U.S. counterterrorism program with special operations. And we were deployed over in one of many times over in Africa because we thought we were going to have to go down to Mali to evacuate an American embassy, right? So part of my job in this program, I was a security advisor and planner. Well, part of my job at night was our operators had the tendency to, if they weren't locked down, they had a tendency to go consume alcohol and be stupid Americans, which would embarrass us, instead of being low-key. So it was my job to kind of babysit them and if need be, get them back out of the area. So anyway, we're at this, I can't remember the name of it, but former President Clinton had just been there for 2 weeks. And they left and we went in right behind them. Anyway, so they had this lounge there, right? And they had a band there. Of course, they're all black Africans, right? And they don't speak any English. but they're performing music, American songs in English. So they were on a break, and I asked the one guy, very friendly, I asked the one guy, he couldn't understand me, so I drew a picture of West Virginia, and he smiled. When he went back up, they played Take Me Home Country Roads in English, and they didn't understand a word that they were saying. All right, so true story. All right, so I'm from Hope for Survival. I gave it that name because we have to have hope. No matter what happens in our life, we have to always keep hope, okay? So take a good look at that picture. See that picture, hope? All right, there's my website. If you want to get on my email list, there's a list at the back of the room. I send out emails to let you know when I've updated my website. It's a year old. We've got about 300 articles on it now. I have 7 or 8 other writers that help me so I can come out and do this, and I'm not constantly sitting writing. It's basically what's going on in the world, how-to, instruction. Monday's inspirational day. I have a young lady out of North Carolina, Mountain Rose. I keep everyone's identity safe. I'm not advertising. Monday's inspirational day. We talk about weapons. I just recently, a month ago, started doing podcast videos on a YouTube channel, and I go out and I talk to people just like you. All right, I don't need to talk to the others. I want to talk to Americans, okay? Anyway, that's all the stuff. All right, so preparedness. Natural, man-made, and technological, okay? Natural, flood, tornado, ice storm, hurricane, fire, derecho, or CME, coronal mass ejection, which comes off the sun, okay? Man-made, terrorism, bio, agro, narco, economic, active shooter. Technological, you hear very little about technological threats. Folks, you see what's going on in the world right today in America with the coronavirus? Knock, knock, knock. There is a cyber threat against our country that is equivalent to what you're seeing in the coronavirus. Every single day, we have IT folks. The agency I work for in Huntsville, we're in multiple locations. Our IT budget for 5 years was $6.5 billion. And they constantly are battling threats of foreign countries that are trying to get in to get our technology for space defense and other programs. All right, government and state response. This is the big thing to try to get to help folks understand. I gave a briefing about a year and a half ago. I was asked to be a guest speaker at the FBI down in Huntsville. They said, come and talk to us about emergency management and critical infrastructure, right? It's important that you, as a taxpaying citizen, also understands these points, okay? Critical infrastructure is the priority at every level. Hospitals, emergency services, clearing roads, keeping clean water coming to you, sewage, powered hospitals, right? Emergency responders, police, fire, ambulance, they need to have pathways to get in to keep the critical infrastructure functioning, okay? All incidents are managed at the local level. Priorities, continuities of government, roads, hospitals, utilities, communications. I've heard so many times, FEMA didn't do this, FEMA didn't do that. And let me tell you, I don't walk around carrying a FEMA flag, okay? I have full respect for them, but I'm trying to get across to us citizens how it works, okay? FEMA supports the regions and directs the requests from state leadership. FEMA does not come down into the streets and save people off of rooftops, hand out food. So, if you're behind the line in the disaster where it's taking place, what FEMA brings to the fight is what the mayors tell the governors, who declares a state emergency. FEMA then responds and brings what the governor asked for. Okay? FEMA is not real big. All right? So, what's important? Preparedness means self-reliance to take care of yourself. What is your plan? How are you going to be self-reliant to take care of yourself and your family? When we went through multiple Cat 5 hurricanes down in Huntsville back in 2011, we had no power or water for weeks, 10 days. Our entertainment was sitting and listening to a battery-operated AM radio that had 1 or 2 hours a day radio broadcast out of Huntsville, and the disc jockey Del Jackson was only taking calls that could get through of people who needed help. And there were people calling in wanting milk deliveries, need a gallon of gas because my girlfriend's going to break up with me if I don't get to her house on time, right? Those aren't emergencies, right? So self-reliance is what we're talking about. I'll get into it more. All right, what is preparedness? A state of readiness 24/7. All right, that's our goal. Before you have all these backpacks, water filters, and all that, the 3 most critical things are your spiritual preparedness, your physical preparedness, and your psychological preparedness. That's about you as an individual and how well you know yourself. All right? I'm telling you this on past experience. Then your family, food, water, shelter, and protection. Is everyone here familiar with brain freeze and fight or flight? You know what I'm talking about? We as humans react in strange ways when we're under stress. All right? And when I talk about knowing yourself, this is kind of what I'm talking about. First, you need to know where you stand if you do or do not have a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. And are you right with Him? If you died at this moment, are you golden? Are you good? Okay? 2, you don't want to go through life, as I talked about it in my book. I had an event happen to me in Montana, probably around 91 or 92, I don't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, and it was my first real encounter with the dead. Okay? And we had multiple aircraft crashes, multiple aircrafts that crashed. The mortuary affairs team was sent in to recover the 13 bodies. They couldn't handle it. They pulled them out. It was a week or 2 before Christmas. So I got volunteered and a couple other guys to help the county mortician guy. Anyway, so they use the jaws of life and they're cutting through. There was 13 bodies from 2 airframes that collided and crashed. Not one body was intact, right? And so ever since that day that we went into these airframes, I picked the helmet up off the ground. We were kind of crawling through because it was crushed up in the cockpit. And I picked the helmet up, and when I turned it around, there was eyes staring at me, right? And it was one of the pilots. But ever since that day, every day of my life, I can still see, and I don't, it's not a blah, it's, was he saved? This guy tried to land a half of an airframe in the middle of a cow pasture in north central Montana because he died with his eyes open. But I still, it's an important task like Doug was talking about. How many seeds are we sowing to try to get a message to folks? Where are you at spiritually? Okay? All right. Preparedness is a state of actions that are taken as precautionary measures in the face of potential disasters. A while ago I mentioned fight or flight and brain freeze. You can have some of the toughest, macho, gun shooting bubbas surrounding you, but if they've never been tested and it's not their fault, if they've never had the stress pushed to the max, you don't know how they're going to react in a brain freeze, fight or flight scenario, right? I can tell you from where I work at, the folks who normally, when we have an event that requires kind of to up the stress level, grandmothers and folks that have lived through like hurricanes, tornadoes, bad car wrecks that have been on like the scene, first responder type folks, because they're they're kind of caretakers, if you will. So this is something you really need to know, because if you take care of a family or your family, the last thing you need is for an event to happen that pushes your stress level up and your family's depending on you and you freeze. It's not your fault. It's how your body reacts, okay? So you need to kind of figure that one out, all right? Preparedness is used as an insurance policy. This is a mind blower for me. We all have health insurance, life insurance, car insurance, home insurance, flood insurance, tornadoes, short and long-term disability, pet insurance. We have insurance for everything you can imagine. But the single thing that you need to keep you alive is the thing that we take for granted. And that is, why do people focus on the most important need the least? Right? You can live 3 days without water and 3 weeks without food. All these insurances, some are requirements. It's great. Most of us have all these insurances. But like now, if the president comes out on Monday and says, I'm shutting the country down, I'm quarantining every single American in the United States for 30 days or 2 weeks in your house, are you ready? Right? It's not the first responder's job to run to Sam's and now do your shopping for you. They have a real mission, and it's not us. Right? All right. So, I said earlier I was going to take a different approach. Preppers are my brothers. I approach it from the preparedness, right? When you look up in the dictionary, it talks about a prepper prepares for doomsday, which is a single event, right? Preparedness, we're talking about preparing 24/7. You do a risk assessment or risk analysis on everything you do in your life, routes you drive, your bank account, how you shop, right? And the only thing I know about prepping is that doctor I went to, and he said, here, you need to drink this because you need to prep for that colonoscopy. And I don't like that. All right? All right. Know yourself. Where do you stand right now? How well do you know you? If you had to depend on yourself to protect or save your life or the life of your family, how would you handle it? Car wreck, shooting accident, home invasion, jogging or hiking accident, wildlife, physical attack on your family. You take off in the morning to go hunting, right? I'm going hunting, I'll be back. Who knows where you're going? What time are you due back? If you go down with an injury or you're shot, can you take care of yourself and get a message out for help? Can you treat yourself if you have a gunshot wound to save your own life, whether it's a tourniquet or stop bleed or something, until help can get to you? If no one knows where you are, how are they going to find you, and when will they know to find you? All right? Self-reliance. All right. So earlier I made the comment about a lot of folks say, well, the Lord will provide for me. Yes, He will. I'll be the first to attest to that. He will provide. But He also expects us to have some self-responsibility and some common sense, right? Blessed is each man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is in the Lord, Jeremiah 17:7. But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. 1 Timothy 5:8. If you've got a household full of family, it is each of our individual responsibilities to ensure that our family is fed, watered, sheltered, and protected. Okay? We don't want to rely on someone else to do it for us. All right? So under food, the federal government and FEMA, it used to be 3 days, then it was 7 days, then it was 10 days. Right at the end of President Obama's term, it went to 14 days. Federal government says that you, Joe American, or Susie American, that you should have this much food and water to take care of yourself, right? During an event or a disaster. When in 2018, Homeland Security came out, and the director of Homeland Security said, hey, America, you folks need to have at least 6 months worth of food and water, medicine, money, whatever you need to take care of you in the event we have a grid crisis and the national grid goes down, meaning we lose everything, right? No banks, no airplanes. If the grid goes down, it either was hacked or you had a coronal mass ejection or electromagnetic pulse. Doesn't matter why, it's the effect, right? So Homeland Security said it. Well, in the last 3 weeks, in a conversation, President Trump kind of nonchalantly said the same thing. Hey, Americans, you need to have 6 months worth of food, water, money, medicine. So we've been told now twice in the last 2 years. The government doesn't volunteer information overly freely. Okay, 37 years invested working within Department of Defense. They're not overly willing to come out and make statements that unbalances the powers. As you see right now with the economy and the stock market and all that, we have to keep the boat afloat and keep it calm. So that was part of why I said, you know what, I got to take everything that I've been taught, schools and experiences, and I got to come out and I got to talk to Americans. Because you've got to get yourself self-reliant to take care of yourself, right, during any kind of event, to sustain your family, so that emergency responders can go do the tasks that they're trained to do, and it's not get cats out of trees, and it's not to bring bread and milk. They're great people, but they're skilled, and they have a mission to do, to try to get the ship back to normal, all right? Water, or prepared day-to-day to avoid the rush during disaster, 95 and 5. I've had several folks email me in the last couple of weeks that bought and read my book, and they sent me emails to say thank you. Everything we're seeing in America today is exactly what you walked us through in your book. I'm not trying to sell you books because I don't make a penny off my books. Every penny that's above my cost of print goes to charity, to feed food shelter, okay? My point is, it's not rocket science. If you go back and you look at past disasters, statistically, the same thing happens, right? And how many of you heard on the news last week, our wonderful media telling us, well, the preppers rushed and bought all the food and toilet paper. And wrong answer. Because preppers don't have to, preparers don't have to go buy the stuff because we already have it. Because we prepare day to day, right? Our goal, as I'm trying to get to you, is to get what you need to sustain. And when events like coronavirus happen, you step back, distance yourself, and you let them go crazy in the stores. These are the people you don't want to be around, all right? They're good people, they come from good families, they probably have a white fence and a couple dogs. But I don't want to be near them, A, because of what I witnessed in 2011, of how uncivilized citizens can get over a bag of ice, pack of toilet paper, whatever it may be. Selfish, it's beyond cruelty, but again, it's about survival of me and my family, and we're pulling back, okay? And that's the whole goal. Prepare every day, don't be abnormal, right? But when we have a coronavirus or any kind of event, you want to step back away from it and just let the 95% run crazy. Because they're going to do it. Every hurricane, Katrina, this isn't new what you're seeing. It's just how the media is portraying it, okay? Right? Have faith, have knowledge, be wise, right? All right, water, clean potable water, well water, catch system, creek, stream, ability to sanitize water. I was talking to a few young gentlemen here earlier. Water filtration is critical. Whether you're on the go, you're hiking, hunting, whatever. If you go down somewhere, so you fall over a fence when you're hunting and you're by yourself and you're out there for a couple days, you either better have water or a way to filter water if you've got to crawl to it, because you've got to have water in your body and you need clean water to do it. So tablets, bleach, life straw, something of that nature. This is part of being self-reliant and planning before you go do it. Shelter, house, tent, car shelter. The goal is to avoid the elements in your region so you don't freeze to death. Okay, I'm going to the grocery store. I don't know why, I can't tell you that. But when I wrote about this in my book, and when I've talked about it in other states, I don't know why, but West Virginia always comes to mind. I always think about the curvy roads, driving as a youngster, and coming through here on leave when I was in the military. It's no big deal. You're driving 5 or 10 miles home, right? It's November, December. Hop in your car, you get it from the store, you get off a shift, and you take off driving home. Cell signal's kind of cruddy. Car crosses the lane, you swerve, you're over the hill. You're now pinned in a car in the middle of the winter time when you should have already been home, and no one knows exactly where you're at. You hope they know, and you hope the guy that just ran you off the road lets someone know. But you could be in that vehicle. What do you have in that vehicle? A, to keep you hydrated. B, to feed you energy bars, protein bars. What do you have to communicate? You just went over the side of the road. Your cell phone went flying in the dark, and you're trapped in your vehicle. If you hear someone up above and you yell and yell and yell and they can't hear you, how are you going to let them know? So one of the things we talk about is keep a whistle close by in your day bag. Okay? That goes more in depth than what I'm going to cover. I'm more than happy to talk to you about it. Personal items in your bag. Security, self-protection, and family protection from all threats. One of the things in my book I did not go into in great detail is weapons. I think weapons is a personal choice. It doesn't fit everyone. I'm a strong advocate of, like with my wife, when I bought her first firearm, I let her see it. I wouldn't let her hold it or touch it until she went through a firearm safety class. Took her to the range, she was comfortable with it. We got her concealed carry license, and then sat down and talked to her about the laws of the state of Alabama and how they impacted her and so forth. That is critical. You need to understand, like in Alabama, well, they broke in my house and I came in my bedroom, 2 of them ran, I shot the other one. Well, what they have in their hands? Nothing, they ran. Well, guess what, my friend? If they did not come in and pose a threat to you, you're probably going to go to prison. That's the state of Alabama. You need to know how the law applies to you in your home, like for a breaking and entering. You need to know how it works for you. Okay? Liability, even though you were totally, if you will, innocent, the law may not be in favor. Like, they didn't come to your room, they didn't beat on your door, they didn't threaten you, they were just stealing from you, right? Yeah, that's not good. But if they didn't pose a threat to you and you shoot and kill them, you need to know what's going to happen to you. Okay? All right, real quick, the 5-5-5 plan. This is really simple stuff, but this is as basic as I can get it. We like to talk about a 5-5-5 plan, a 5-second plan, a 5-minute plan, a 5-hour plan. A 5-second plan is like a home fire, a car wreck, work evacuation, earthquake, home invasion. Are you prepared to leave your location in 5 seconds or less? Probably not, right? You're going to get up and you're going to run. And you just left behind whatever, right? What do you have packed sitting near an evacuation point of your home or wherever you may be that on your way out the door you can grab that will keep you alive for 3 days? Or your family or your pets? Okay? 5-minute plan. A tornado or derecho, flood, civil strife. Can you leave your home prepared in 5 minutes with everything that you need to possibly never come back? The 5-hour plan, be like maybe a hurricane, regional, local fire, civil strife. Allows more time to pack a vehicle or trailer. Do you know what you would want to take with you to survive? Keep in mind, you may not be coming back. Right? All right, so bags. I got more bags than Walmart. One of the things is I have a day bag. In my day bag, I keep an energy bar, water, soft shoes, seasonal gear for long exposure to elements. So the building where my desk is, I have 8 buildings, but the building that I actually sit in where my desk is at, it's 7 floors, 860,000 square feet. It's about 4,000 employees, right? So those of us in emergency management, we keep what we call a day bag or a ready bag. And in there we have the gear that we think we're going to need if we have to evacuate outside and not come back. Seasonal, geographic, medicine, water, energy bars, soft shoes, maybe some rain gear, okay? It's personal. What do you think you need, okay? An everyday bag that stays in your vehicle. This is a bag that will keep you alive for 3 to 5 days, food, water, shelter, walking home from work. We as Americans, we take so much for granted, right? We take so much for granted. Our freedoms, our liberties, our constitutional rights. Nothing will ever happen. We'll never be in Iraq. There'll never be a pandemic. Ever, ever. What are you talking about? Pandemic. That happens over there. We don't have those things here. Right? Well, guess what? We're having one. So my 3-day bag is this bag right here. This stays in my truck, whatever vehicle I'm driving, along with a water bladder and along with first aid, okay? And knowing how to use the first aid. Tourniquets and stop bleed and so on. All right, then a bug out bag, packed ready to leave, okay? My wife and I work about 240 miles away from where our home's at, okay? And she has bags in her vehicle, I have bags in my vehicle. I probably know what's more in my bag than she does, but she has it, okay? So if something happens and we have some kind of event, we have a trigger word that I can send her a message if I can get it to her, and she knows we're out of there. We're heading from North Alabama to East Tennessee, which is our main staging area. So this is my bug out bag, and it's heavier. They recommend no more than 30 pounds. Mine's at about 40 pounds because I have about 240 miles I gotta walk, right? And I got about 10 days worth of food and about 3 days worth of water, and then I'm dependent upon systems that I have, life straws, treatment. So we live by this thing called 1 is none and 2 is 1. If you have one and it breaks, what do you do? So 1 is none and 2 is 1. Always have a backup. It doesn't mean have 2 of the same thing. Find mechanisms that you can use for multiple tasks. And we have this thing called a football bag. This thing right here. One of us always has this bag with us. If something happens to our home or wherever, everything that we own and about us is in this bag. Banking, savings, retirements, pictures, deeds, titles, they're all digitalized and coded on a external memory device, okay? So if we can always prove who we are and what we have because we have it right here, okay? So consider, don't take for granted that you're gonna be, an event happens and you're gonna be able to walk into a bank and that bank says, well, hi, Bob. Let me pull up your account. You need to know laws, changing laws, how they impact you. And again, self-reliance. I am dependent upon me to be able to provide for me and my family, right? And take care of ourselves. All right. Communication real quick. This is a biggie. I teach about 16 different classes. This is one of the most demanded classes that I teach, the family communication planning. All right? If a disaster strikes and you're separated from your loved ones, how will you communicate? What is your plan? Have you already determined where you will rally and who will take care of connecting with young children to pick them up? What if the disaster eliminates your transportation and communications? What is your plan? What if the disaster eliminates your transportation, communication, and your way of life? If everything stopped right now and we're in here with no way to communicate, what's your plan? Do you have a location set up to where you can go and meet and rally? Well, go home. Well, what if your loved one is out somewhere else when it all stopped? What is your plan to get back together? At what location? And what if you can't go there? What if the disaster hit there? Where's your secondary location to go be, right? So there's a simple thing called a PACE plan. The primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency plan, right? Primary represents the first communication plan to use. A is alternate if the primary doesn't work. What is your contingency if both the primary and the alternate fail? Emergency, if all else fails, this is what you will do. Go through the PACE process for each family or group and determine how you're going to communicate under the circumstance. I go into great detail of this in the book. Here's a sample. After here today, come talk to me. You can get on my email list. I'll add you into the emails out. I talk about all this stuff on my website, teaching you how to build plans. But these are examples. They're not all the same. Like I work in a large building underground in a vault, right? I'm in a vault, so I can't have any cell phones or anything like that turned on, because they haven't blocked anyway. So a cell phone would not, it would be like the last one for me. So how would a family member communicate with me since the cell phone's out, texting's out? So it would have a POTS line, which is a direct line phone, or possibly email if the email is still working, right? So those are things that you need to set up. Conclusion, with the number of increased disasters, the reason I put that 10-minute presentation before we started, it's easy to say, yeah, that happened, that happened, that happened, that happened. But when you consolidate and you start looking at dates, the disasters that are happening around the world and in America are getting closer and closer and closer. Okay? Fires on the West Coast, fires in Colorado, floods in Nebraska, floods in the Midwest, ice storms in the Northeast, floods in West Virginia. I can remember growing up the floods that used to hit McDowell County constantly, being in Mercer County, all the time. Those poor folks over there, as soon as they'd get their carpet dry, it'd flood them again, and they wouldn't leave. You know, finally FEMA said, well, if you're not going to leave, we're not coming back. So, remember, 90% of preparedness is awareness. Okay? It's not my business. I don't know where you get your information from daily, but I would just say, be really, really cautious to the information that's coming out of that thing that we call a TV. All right? It's a manipulating tool that can easily persuade one or persuade masses to have a certain way of thinking on that specific topic. If you hear it long enough, you'll believe it. Okay? Federal government conducted a study a few years ago that says 90% of U.S. citizens will die if we have a pandemic or an electromagnetic pulse in the United States. 90%. They'll die from health issues, lack of medicines, gangs, crimes, starvation. 90% in 1 year. All right? And, bless you. I promise I didn't buy this, I didn't read this on a grocery stand at the end of the checkout aisle. All right? It's an actual government congressional study that you can go read. Address your spiritual, psychological, physical well-being. Prepare yourself and your family today. The hardest part of preparing is adjusting your mindset. It's not doing all this. It's changing your mind to how you see things. So in the book I talk about it a lot, in the training classes I talk about it a lot. Step back and become an out-of-the-box thinker. You need to see things before other people see them. It doesn't mean you're magical. It's just an ideology of how you see things around you. You know when to step back and start pulling away. All right? Be blessed. Be thankful. Always have hope, because I can tell you from being on every continent but one, we are extremely blessed people to live in this great country that we have. Okay? Question? Anyone have any questions? All right, so the very first person, sorry.
Maybe tell folks where to get the drinking straws from.
They're actually easy. You can buy them off of Amazon.com. You can buy them in most sporting goods stores. Just make sure you read the back and you know what percentage that it's normally like 99.9%. Some of them will tell you that it could, which type of a bacteria that it will clean. Or you can use bleach. You can buy tablets. You can use heat and boil it. But the life straws and things like that, almost all sporting goods. Walmart might carry them.
They do.
I'm not sure. Sorry.
Keller's at Crossland.
All right, Keller's. I'm sorry, I'm not from up in this area, but a place called Keller's has them. Anyone else have a question? I'm back in the back if you want to sign up to get on the mailing list. Come see me or fill it out. It's laying back there. And visit the website. Last question I have. Someone tell me what's in that circle O. First person who can tell me what's in that circle O, I'll give a free book.
Bread.
All four of them.
Water, shelter, and protection.
Define protection.
Security.
Here you go. Thank you all. Thanks for your time. Stay safe. Here, man, you gotta think that.
He's supposed to have another question. I bought some toilet paper in case y'all ran out. Go ahead and ask another question. Ask another question. See if you get another answer.
I feel like that heifer Doug was talking about.
The heifer? Yeah. You look like a heifer. Oh.
That over at his farm.
What's the 555? What's that stand for? Yes, sir. There you go, buddy. Here's some tool paper.
You're awesome.
All right, you come up. Well, I came up.
What does PACE stand for?
Pace.
You're talking about a family communication plan. What's PACE stand for? And while you're thinking about that, what is the single most important thing in preparedness? Okay, I'll give you that.
Well, don't hit him in the head with the tool paper.
I'll throw like that. You said water. I got one more.
That's right, go ahead.
What's
I ain't got no more tool paper. I ran out. My Kroger's.
I'm not
My
giving you
Kroger's.
mine.
I'm out of
This
tool
is out
paper.
of my bag, so I'm not giving that away.
Awareness.
I want you to go beyond that.
Spiritual relationship with Jesus Christ.
Amen. Come back at the table. All four of your boys got something. I got one for you too. All right.
All right.
You all. You done?
Yeah, I'm done with you now.
All right.
We're getting ready to release you to the fellowship hall to get dinner, getting ready for that. But I just want to real quickly announce that tomorrow at 9:30 here up in this classroom, Butch is going to have another class that you're more welcome to come to, whether or not you come to this church or not. We'll be upstairs in that classroom there, and he'll be here again talking tomorrow at 9:30. And then as soon as he gets done with that, he's got to head back to Alabama because he got called out to work on Monday. So he might get lucky and get to work from home. But before we leave, I'm going to say a word of grace for the food. And as you're exiting that building, again, trying to be careful with our health. I would love, if you can, take a squirt of hand sanitizer and put it on your hands before we go and eat. That's just so you're not putting your hands in your face with everything.